Krishna as one of the auspicious ritualistic activities which are offered in the Vedas as fruitive activities, karma kanda. Number 9, to instruct a faithless person about the glories of the holy name. Number 10, to not have complete faith in the chanting of the holy name and to maintain material attachments even after understanding so many instructions of this matter. It is also an offense to be inattentive while chanting. Every devotee who claims to be a Vaishnava must guard against these offenses in order to achieve the desired success, Krishna Prema. Once again, thank you all for joining the Bhakti Sangha conference call today. Let us move to our next session, which is Srimad Bhagavatam class. May I know who will have joined the call this morning?
Hare Krishna Nanda Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Anita Ramya from Sharjah. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, Dandavad Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, all Dandavat Pranam to you and all in class. Jai Shila Prabhupada, Jai Gurudev. This is Harinada from Washington, Fairfax, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hari Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Narmada Mataji, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajis. My humble obeisances to you and all the devotees. This is Krishna Kumari Devidasi from Raleigh.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Kumari Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. This is Radha from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Guru and Gauranga and all the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Mati Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to assembled devotees. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Nanda Priya Narmada Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Sri Gauranga. And to all assembled devotees, this is Megha from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Megha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Namaste Mataji, please my humble obeisance to Prabhupada, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Aditi Devi Dasi in Canada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Aditi Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Nanda Priya Nirmada Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada. Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shama Gauri Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. I offer my obeisances to all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is John from West Bengal.
Hare Krishna and Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavats Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Shiromani Nandarani Devidasi from Krishna Kathadesh. Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much.
Hare Krishna Shiromani Nandarani Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Nandapriya Narmada Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and all the assembled devotees. This is Indulekha Karna Devidasi from Lincoln.
Hare Krishna Indulekha Karuna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to assembled devotees. This is Charu from Charlotte. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Charu Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
This meeting is being recorded.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are very fortunate to have His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji on the call to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam, 6th canto, 5th chapter, 17th sloka. Before handing over the call to Prabhuji, I would like to ask Aditi Mataji to give brief introduction about Prabhuji. Mataji, please take over.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Hare Krishna devotee, please accept my humble obeisances. Used to His Grace Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji. Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji is a disciple of His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj, is a monk, mentor, and spiritual author, and electronics and communication engineering graduate. He worked as a software engineer in a prominent multinational software corporation. Seeing the prevalent problems of stress, depression, addiction, and overall misdirection, all due to a lack of spirituality, he felt inspired to dedicate his life to the cause of sharing the spiritual wisdom of the Bhagavad Gita. Prabhuji is the author of the world's only Gita daily feature, wherein he writes daily 300-word inspirational reflection on a verse from Bhagavad Gita. As of now, he has written over 1,700 Gita meditations that are posted on www.gitadaily.com. He also answers questions by seekers on his site www.thespiritualscientist.com, where his over 3,500 audio answers and several hundred articles are available. He travels all over the world from Australia to America, giving talks on spiritual subjects in universities such as Princeton and Cambridge and companies such as Intel and Microsoft. We are very happy to welcome Prabhuji today. Over to you, Mataji. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji, for the brief introduction. I don't see Prabhuji on the call. Right, Mataji?
Mataji, we will read the verse.
Okay. Okay. Mataji, Indulekha Mataji, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji, this is a slightly longer verse. So,
yes.
Do devotees want to take turns and read, Mataji?
Yes.
Okay.
Please go ahead.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Chapter 5, Text 17. Panchavimshati Tattvanam Purusho Adbhuta Darpana Adhyatmam Abhudhasyeha Kim Asat Karma Bhir Bhaved. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Narada Muni had said that there is a house made of 25 elements. The Haryashvas understood this analogy. The Supreme Lord is the reservoir of the 25 elements, and as the Supreme Being, the conductor of cause and effects, He causes their manifestation. If one engages in temporary fruitive activities, not knowing that Supreme Person, what benefit will he derive? Hare Krishna. If somebody would like to read the purport, please.
Can I read, Mataji?
Sure, Mataji.
Where do I start from? The purpose?
Yes.
Philosophers and scientists.
Hare Krishna Mataji, too much noise is coming from your side.
I have nothing on though. I don't know where the noise is coming from. Philosophers and scientists conduct scholarly research to find the original cause, but they should do so scientifically, not whimsically or through fantastic theories. The science of the original cause is explained in various Vedic literatures. Ataha Brahma Jigyasa Janmade Asya Yatha. The Vedanta Sutra explains that one should inquire about the Supreme Soul. Such inquiry about the Supreme is called Brahma Jigyasa. The absolute truth is explained in Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11. Vedanti tat tattva vedas tattvam yad jnanam advayam brahmiti pramatmati bhagwan iti shabdate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman. I'm sorry, Mataji, I lost my place. One second. Yeah, I'm back. Okay. Learned transcendents who know the absolute truth call the non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagwan. The absolute truth appears to neopathies as impersonal Brahman and to advanced mystic yogi as Paramatma, the super soul, but devotees who are further advanced understand the absolute truth as the supreme Lord Vishnu. The material cosmic manifestation is an expansion of the energy of Lord Vishnu. Ekadesha Tihitasya Agni Jyotisna Vitastarni Whatever we see in this world is but an
Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Yeah, Nandapriya Mataji wants to read.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Ekadesha स्थितस्याग्नेर्ज्योत्स्ना विस्तारिणी यथा परस्य ब्रह्मणः शक्तिस् ततेदम् akilam jagat. Whatever we see in this world is but an expansion of various energies of Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is like a fire that spreads illumination for a long distance, though it is situated in one place. Vishnu Purana. The entire cosmic manifestation is an expansion of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, if one does not conduct research to find the Supreme Cause, but instead falsely engages in frivolous temporary activities, what is the use of demanding recognition as an important scientist or philosopher? If one does not know the ultimate cause, what is the use of his scientific and philosophical research? Anyone can take over.
Hare
Can
Krishna.
I continue, Mataji?
Yeah, please.
Hare Krishna. The Purusha, the original person, Bhagavan, Vishnu, can be understood only by devotional service. Bhaktya mam abhijanati yavan yash chasmi tattvataha. Only by devotional service can one understand the Supreme Person who is behind everything. One must try to understand that the material elements are the separated inferior energy of the of the Lord, and that the living entity is the Lord's spiritual energy. Whatever we experience, including matter and the spirit soul, the living force, is but a combination of two energies of Lord Vishnu, the inferior energy and the superior energy. One should seriously study the facts concerning creation, maintenance, and devastation, as well as the permanent place from which one never need return. Yat gatva na nivartante. Human society should study this, but instead of Culturing such knowledge, people are attracted to temporary happiness and sense gratification, culminating in bottomless, topless passion. There is no profit in such activities. One must engage himself in the Krishna consciousness movement. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji.
Prabhuji is still not here, right?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes,
The recording has stopped.
Hare Krishna. Are there any devotees who would like to introduce before Prabhuji joins?
Hello, this is Sukakar Krishnadas from Chennai. All goes to Srila Prabhupada, all goes to all the Guru Maharaj, all goes to all the wonderful devotees of Bhakti Sangha. Thank you very much for having me to join your group. Thank you very much.
Prabhuji, do you want to sing bhajan?
Can I sing?
Hare Krishna, Sukakar Krishna Prabhuji, Dandot Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for joining the call and giving your association. Yeah, please go ahead, Prabhuji.
Being recorded.
Radha Krishna Pran Mora Jugala Kishore Jibone Morone Goti Arunahi Mo Radha Krishna Pran Mora Jugala Kishore Jibone Morone Goti Arunahi Mo Kalindira Kule Keli Kadambare Vana Kalindira Kule Keli Kadambare Vana Ratana Vediru Para Boshabodu Jana Ratana Vediru Paro Boshabodu Jana Radha Krishna Pran Mora Jugala Kishore Shama Gori Ange Dibo Chandana Re Gandha Shamara Dhulabo Kabe Virimukha Chandra Gatiyamat Lotirmala Dibodohara Gole Adhare Tuliya Dibo Kapuratamudi Lalitabi Shakadi Jato Shukhi Brinda Ajnaya Koribo Shiba Charanara Vinda Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daseranu Dasa Devayadi Karadiye Narottamo
Hare Krishna.
Dasa Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. I saw them.
Hare Krishna.
Sorry for singing. Sorry.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you so much for the wonderful song, Prabhuji.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Thank you, Shamaguna. Thank you, Aditi Mataji, for allowing me to give the chance.
Hare Krishna, Chaitanya Charan Prabhu. Please accept my humble pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj. Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for giving your very valuable time and association to us this morning. Please take over the call, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Okay. So,
Prabhuji, we are already done with reading.
Translation purport, huh?
Yes,
Okay. Yes, everything.
Okay. I'll just start the recording and you can start again after this.
This meeting is being recorded.
Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shrivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. Thank you for your patience, my delay, my apologies. So today we are discussing a very interesting section from the Bhagavatam. Can you please, I am also joined through my tablet. Can you please make the tablet also as a co-host? That is CCD. So this section of the Bhagavatam primarily focuses on the theme of how true things, how bhakti philosophy or bhakti message can also be explained in a enigmatic, puzzling kind of way. And it can be also be intellectually stimulating, titillating, whatever word you want to use. And also how Narad Muni focuses on renunciation. So I'll talk this in two broad terms. This particular pastime, in the 6th canto, if you can see the 6th canto, is the screen visible? The color is clear for you?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay. So if we consider here, there are many things going on in the Bhagavatam. If we consider the overall Bhagavatam, 1st canto to 12th canto, the purpose is there is one purpose of the Bhagavatam. You could say it is to focus on Krishna. And this is specifically for Shukdev Goswami doing this for Parikshit Maharaj. But that remembrance of Krishna through the specifically through the process of glorification. That is the purpose of the Bhagavatam. And all the pastimes that are there in the Bhagavatam, they are at one level, if you say they are directly Krishna's pastimes, they become like resource for remembering Krishna. If we like we have in the 10th canto. But apart from that, we have devotees' pastimes. And these devotees' pastimes, what they do is, they can also be resource for remembering Krishna, but they can be inspiration for remembering Krishna. Okay, this is how in this particular devotee, this particular situation, say Ajamil, he just chanted once the name of Krishna, of Narayan, even that too unintentionally. We can say, and he was not even a devotee, but it is devotees' pastimes, or we could say human beings who become devotees, their pastimes. So we could say in the process of remembrance of Krishna, there are two things. There is the Guru and there is the Shishya. So now the Guru is the person who is the giver of, okay, what happened over here? Sorry. Am I audible and visible to you?
Yes.
So the Guru and Shishya, this is sorry. So we have the Guru and Shishya. Now there are the guru is meant to offer both resources for remembering Krishna and inspiration for remembering Krishna. Now, this can be done in many different ways. So the teacher is the person. Srila Prabhupada himself said at one point that there are two different statements of Srila Prabhupada. One is says, I am just like a postman. I didn't change a single word. I simply repeated the process, repeated the message of my Guru Maharaj. That's what Prabhupada said. But in another place, especially when Prabhupada is talking about nectar of devotion in his lectures, he says, I practically invented the Krishna consciousness movement. Now, what is he meaning by that? So here Prabhupada says that he is primarily talking about somehow or the other remember Krishna. That is, Yena Kena Prakarena Mana Krishna Niveshat. And he said that when he says, I practically invented the Krishna consciousness movement, means that he's saying that I provided, you could say, innovative ways of remembering Krishna, of connecting with Krishna, of serving Krishna. Right now, the book marathon is going on. Now, there's no such thing like a marathon, or even the idea of book distribution is not very common or widespread within the broad Vedic tradition. The Brahmanas give knowledge, but the idea of giving books and having targets and then having deadlines to meet the targets. What was this? This was Prabhupada's resourceful way of doing many things. Of what was Prabhupada channeling the Rajoguna of his young disciples. So if you consider this what channeling Rajoguna, then he was adapting to the Western culture. And traditionally, the sadhus would just go and ask for bhiksha, and then they would give some wisdom to those who were receiving it. But in the West, if somebody the idea of a sacred beggar, the idea, sometimes the word mendicant, which is bhikshuk, mendicant is not at all equal to a beggar. That's how it is translated. A bhikshuk is actually, they are asking for alms, but actually they are giving something higher. So that idea of a mendicant, it is very much a part of the Eastern tradition, but it is very little present in the Western tradition. The Christian monks, they would never go out and seek alms, the Catholic monks. And Protestants, they don't even have monks. In fact, most of the Protestants are aggressively against monkhood. So Prabhupada recognized that this is, if I send disciples out to seek alms, that's not going to work. So Prabhupada created book distribution and served many things, not just it adapting to Western culture. It also was a way of providing spiritual knowledge or providing access to spiritual knowledge. So Prabhupada did many things. And most important, while he was doing all this, the devotees, their minds were absorbed in Krishna. They're thinking about Krishna, how to present the Gitas, how to present the book's wisdom, how to conduct oneself, how to pray to Krishna, how to be inspired in the Krishna conscious environment. So the point I'm making over here is that this guru has to be creative and resourceful to help the disciple remember Krishna. And that applies even to any teacher. So depending on the level, the needs, the overall situation of the disciple. So if the guru is here and the disciple is here, so now the guru wants to basically help the disciple remember Krishna. But this has to be done in many resourceful ways. So how do you provide remembrance of Krishna? So if we consider Narad Muni to be like the exemplary guru, here Narad Muni is actually offering what you could say an intellectually stimulating way of remembering Krishna. What it means is that he is challenging the students. What he speaks, basically what he does is, he speaks like a riddle. And he's speaking to the Haryashvas and the Baulashvas. So when he speaks this, what is the idea? He sees their caliber. There are other places, say when Narad Muni speaks to Dhruva, Now he is not speaking in riddles over there. When Narad Muni is speaking to, say, Mrugari, he's not speaking in riddles over there. But here he sees this is what is required for them to get the message. And if that's what is required, that is what will be provided to them. So broadly speaking, we can say this is Bhakti Yoga. Now, people can come to Bhakti Yoga from the Karma Marga. Or they can come to Bhakti Yoga from the Jnana Marga. Now, ultimately, when you want to practice Bhakti, it is Jnana Karmadi Anavritam. We want to be free from karma and we want to be free from Jnana. Not actually free in the sense of getting rid of it, but free from the worldviews and the motivations associated with the Karma Marga and the Jnana Marga. So there are different ways in which people can come to Bhakti. So for example, if you consider Dhruv Maharaj, Narad Muni instructed him and Dhruv Maharaj also came to Bhakti. But that was largely the Karma Marga. Karma Marga means that Dhruv Maharaj wanted a kingdom. And when Narad Muni tried to speak philosophy to him, he said, actually, honor and dishonor, they're all temporary, they're all peripheral, they don't affect the soul. Why are you getting so disturbed by this insult? Dhruv Maharaj said that what you're saying is true, but it finds no place in my heart. And so please give me an instruction that is workable for me. And he gave him that instruction accordingly. So for him, at that point, he just wanted a kingdom. And if that's what he wanted, that's what he was provided. And then he was told to do some rituals, some austerities, pray to the Lord, and eventually he got the kingdom. But when he got the kingdom, or rather when he got the darshan of the Lord, instead of asking for the kingdom, he felt, my dear Lord, you are so much sweeter. You are the source of such greater happiness. Why should I seek anything else? And so that is from the Karma Marg to come to Bhakti. So in Karma Marg, the message is simple. It is more of, this is what you do. Practice this, practice this, practice this, practice this. Now, in Jnana Marga, the message has to be, to some extent, complex. Now, why complex? Because those who come from the Jnana Marga, they are philosophically oriented. They have questions. And unless those questions are answered in a rational, systematic way, unless their intellect is stimulated, hey, this is something deep, this is something profound, otherwise they will not connect with it. So that is required for those who come from the Jnana Marga. And that is what is being provided here. So Narad Muni is demonstrating the resourcefulness of the spiritual teacher, of the guru, that if somebody needs a complicated message, that's what will make them get it. So then that's what has to be provided to them. We'll say, now Prabhupada said, God is a person. And that was what Prabhupada said. And now when Prabhupada was describing his own Guru Maharaj, what he said was, absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, that's allowed. Now, essentially, these two statements mean the same thing. So, God is a person, absolute is sentient. So, these two are the same statements, but we'll see the level of complexity of thought, the level of sophistication of articulation, the level of intellectual engagement needed to understand that statement will be different. Or let's consider another statement of, so Krishna is beyond the senses. Krishna is beyond the senses. That is a statement that Srila Prabhupada would sometimes makes. He would use the word, explain the word adhokshaja. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta Swami Thakur, he had a statement that he says the materialistic demeanor cannot, I'm paraphrasing it also, materialist demeanor cannot stretch to the domain of the transcendental autocrat, something like that. Stretch to the domain of the transcendental autocrat. So now, what is he saying over here? He's saying the same thing, that we cannot understand Krishna through our senses. But this statement, we may say, why do you want to complicate things? It's simple. Well, but for some people, it can be too simple. And then they will not feel stimulated. They will not feel connected. Hey, if it's so simple, it can't be true. The truth has to be profound. Well, actually, something can be profound and also simple. But sometimes some people need a complex way of presenting things. So this particular section of the Bhagavatam echoes, it's an echo of the Upanishadic approach. The Upanishadic approach is basically for those who are intellectual, those who are the Jnana Marga. So the Upanishads speak things indirectly through metaphors, through stories from which the inference is something which we have to draw. And that is what people need. Some people need that. So His Holiness Devamrita Maharaj has written a book, Searching for Vedic India. It is very intellectually stimulating. So when I was talking with Maharaj about that book, he said, Maharaj, the book is wonderful. I felt that they needed one last chapter which put together the whole worldview. Then that would have been much more impactful. Maharaj said no. He said that I was aiming this book primarily for Ivy League students. And for those kind of students of that caliber, they would feel their intelligence insulted if everything is given in a ready-made package to them. Well, okay, you tell me the points, I will figure out. I'm intelligent enough to figure things out. So don't spoon feed me. So for them, sometimes if things are made too simple, then they feel that. So what happens is, for some people, simplicity, if the simplicity is there, they feel that intelligence is not taxed. Yeah, why do you have to think so much? Can't you explain this simply? The intelligence is not taxed. And that's what they like. But for some people, if simplicity is there, they feel their intelligence is insulted. Oh, why are you spoon feeding me like this? This is also a different demographic. So depending on the demographic we are addressing, demographic is the kind of people, the particular group that we are addressing, we have to be aware and we have to present accordingly. So here the Bhagavatam is echoing the Upanishads and is actually telling something which is very, in one sense, if we look at how the metaphor that is used and this particular verse, I can go into the particular verse, but I was planning to speak more on the broader principle of why this approach is there in the Bhagavatam. That the particular verse talks about how this is a house and this is this and this is that. And then that particular riddle has to be figured out. And there is a separate section where the riddle is being explained. But the Hariyash was able to figure it out. And that's what stimulates them. We can look at it as phalena parichayate. As Prabhupada said, a thing is known by its fruit. So Narad Muni's approach of being very intellectually sophisticated over there, that has the desired fruit. And the desired fruit is that they are all so inspired by the message that they say, we want to surrender to him, surrender to the Lord, renounce the world, focus entirely on him right away. That's glorious. That's what happens, and that is glorious. So now, considering this point, the next thing is that what approach do we use? In general, each one of us has our own nature. Like, let's consider something like Kirtan. Say somebody who is, most of us, we may like Hare Krishna Dhun, we may like some simple tunes. And our point is that we want to be absorbed in Krishna. And sometimes some people have some singers, they sing in such complex tunes that for most of the audience, if the simple tunes, there is participation. It is participatory basically. It is a kirtan in which others are participating. When the complex tunes are there, then it becomes more performatory than participatory. That means the singer is singing in such a way that the audience can watch and the audience can be awed. Those who actually understand the musical sense, those who say, okay, how powerful the throat is, and those things. Those who see that, they can actually see. So they can actually see that here, this person has such great musical talent, but for most people, they will not be able to follow it. Now, if somebody has great musical ability, should they be told you have to always sing simple tunes? No, they should be using this musical ability. But then, if they're going to do a kirtan for the masses, then if there they start using very complicated tunes where the whole purpose is to get everyone to participate and to sing and dance and experience ecstasy, then maybe the complex tune is not right over there. But if some people are really music lovers, and for them, if we use very sweet, subtle, complex tunes, they will love it. Both are absorbing themselves in Krishna, but both are absorbing themselves in Krishna in different ways. So similarly, with respect to the philosophical message, it can be simple for the mass audience, and it may need to be complex. Sometimes the word complex has a negative connotation. It is subtle, it is subtle, it needs to be profound for the class audience. Now again, this is a generalization. By class, class can be in many different ways. But especially if somebody is more Brahmanically oriented, and not only Brahmanically oriented in terms of wanting to do Brahmanical rituals, but Brahmanically oriented in terms of very serious about Shastric study, about philosophical understanding, then for them, some messages can be very simple and they will not understand it. Srila Prabhupada himself told the Bhaktivedanta Institute scientists, what he told them, you said, you speak the Vedic message in their language, in scientific language, Prabhupada said. Why? Because for them, the idea that if somebody says Krishna is God, that is not something which an intellectual might be able to appreciate. So for them, we may say that Krishna represents, so Krishna manifests the primordial cosmological principle in the primeval personal manifestation. So, hey, what is that? Use that kind of language, primordial cosmological principle in the primeval personal manifestation. So now for most people, what does this mean? Primordial cosmological principle, primeval personal manifestation. So it doesn't make much sense. But for people who are intellectually oriented, they will be very touched by it. Oh, Krishna is that. First you can say Krishna manifests, and then Krishna is that. They will be able to accept it much more easily. So there are times when a more philosophically intricate message is what will attract some students. Now the challenge is to know the audience. Sometimes we may give a very complex message to our audience which requires a simple message. And sometimes we may give a simple message to an audience that requires a complex message. So that's why understanding the audience is very important. I'll conclude with this point, that if we have to understand the audience, then, okay, this is what is going on over here. Then we will be able to figure out, how should I speak? I'll conclude with a personal incident. I've been traveling abroad I started traveling from outside America outside India from 2014. And as well as Radhanath Maharaj, a spiritual master, is encouraging me to focus on Western outreach and spend time in the West overall. So every year when after every tour, I generally meet him and give a report to him. So around in 2018, after I had come back from a tour, I met Maharaj. Actually, not 2018, 2019, just before the pandemic. So I told Maharaj, several devotees told me that my classes are very intellectual. And he said that people find it difficult to understand the classes. I said, Maharaj, but I find it, I find it difficult to change. It is not that I am being intellectual. This is just the way I think, and that's the way I present. So it's difficult for me to change. So Maharaj said that, no, you don't have to change yourself. He said that if you try to be humorous like Gaur Gopal Prabhu, that will not work. If Gaur Gopal Prabhu tries to be intellectual like you, that will not work. And then Maharaj, in his sweet, disarming humility, he said that, as far as I am concerned, I am neither humorous like Gaur Gopal Prabhu nor intellectual like you. So I stopped and I said, Maharaj, whatever abilities we have, it's all by your mercy, Maharaj. But Maharaj became grave and he said, but Krishna has gifted me with a deep concern for others. And with that concern in my heart, whatever I speak, it seems to inspire others. So he says, you don't have to change yourself, but you just increase your concern for your audience. So that was a profound instruction for me. So if there's a teacher and there's a student, each teacher will have their own nature. The teacher can't change. But so the teacher's nature is, to some extent, it is fixed. But the student have their own nature, and that is fixed. But what we can do is, at least say if this is the circle of the teacher's nature, and this is the circle of the student's nature, then if the teacher at least makes the effort to understand the student, increase the concern of the audience, increase the concern for the audience, not increase the concern of the audience. Increase the concern of the audience when the audience gets worried. What's going on over here? Then what the teacher can do is find an intersection. So the teacher's nature, the student nature. So, and in this intersection, if the teacher concentrates the message, then that is where the communication will become more effective. So it was after that interaction with Maharaj, I started thinking of what I could do. I wanted to convey deep concepts. I wanted to analyze things deeply. That's the way. That's what convinces me. That's what attracts me. But sometimes that can become too taxing for the audience. So one of the things that I started doing was making PowerPoints to try to illustrate the concepts. So during the pandemic, I made more than 1,000 PowerPoints. But then I found even the PowerPoints were restrictive because it's all, I had to prepare it and I had to stick to what is there in the PowerPoint. So recently I started using this tablets where as I'm thinking, I am illustrating. So what happens is this makes it helps the communication to become more effective. So we need to understand our audience. So if we understand the audience as much as possible, then we can try to make the communication more effective. In general, if we consider our movement, ISKCON, if we consider in the West, broadly speaking, we have Indians who are coming to ISKCON, and that's like a large number of Indians. And we have a relatively small number of Westerners coming. So now the same message has to be presented to Indians, the same message has to be presented to Westerners, but the focus needs to be different. The focus is often, if it's not understood properly, what are the needs, interests, concerns of the audience? So for most Indians, it's more of preserving our culture. Okay, I want my children, I don't want them to become like Western kids who are into drugs and so many things. I want them to know about Allah is relatively important. And that kind of presentation is what appeals. By culture, I mean more of the religious culture in terms of the practices. But for the Western people, the culture, it may be one fact which brings curiosity. But for them, often it is existential needs and questions. Existential needs and questions. So, what is the purpose of life? My mind is so disturbed. What can help me to calm my mind? My mind disturbance is something which is there for everyone. But the more the social structure becomes unstable, relationships are not stable, families are not stable, the mind's instability increases that much more, or manifold more. So what is happening is that if we understand this, then we can tune the message appropriately. So sometimes if we recognize the message, that what is the need of the audience, and then present accordingly, then we will be much more effective in different places. So that expertise Narmuni is demonstrating through this pastime, where he is offering a very intellectually sophisticated presentation of spiritual wisdom. So I'll summarize. I discussed 3 main points today. The first point was about the Bhagavatam's purpose is to fix the mind on Krishna. But that purpose, there is a flexible process for that. And that's what that was the Prabhupada said, I have not changed one word, but I have invented the Krishna conscious movement. The message of fixing on the mind on Krishna is fixed. But how to fix the mind on Krishna, that is variable. I gave the example of Prabhupada doing book distribution and introducing book distribution as a way of connecting with people. And then the second point I talked about was how different people need different things. Some people need simple presentations and some people need complex presentations. So generally those who come from the Karma Marga, they will need a simple presentation, simple message. Those who come from the Jnana Marga, they will need a more complex presentation. And Narad Muni does both. Narad Muni does this for Dhruv Maharaj. Narad Muni does this for the Hari Ashwas. And the last part we discussed was, for us, what can we do? We can't change our nature, but we can try to understand our audience and then find the intersection point between what is our nature and what is the audience nature, and then present. That will make it much more effective. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Are there any questions or comments? Hare Krishna, Anuradha Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Very, very, as usual, very wonderful class. Prabhu, Mike, I had not related to the class, but as you were talking about preaching towards the end, how we have to understand the audience, and also, we can't change our nature, and there should be an intersection. So, Prabhu, do you take any, is there any workshop which you conduct for the preachers, and, is there something, and if there is, how do we access it, Prabhu?
Yes, I'm planning that. Till now, I have not done any specific workshops, but I'm planning that soon with probably the Bhagavad Vidyapita. So I'll keep you informed about that. See, in general, on my YouTube channel, I had talked something about Western outreach. I have a class on communication. So it's not a systematic course, but there are some broad classes. So yes, I am planning to do that in the future. Thank you for...
Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, and we look forward. Yes, Prabhu. We are like we are in a community, Kalachanji Dallas, and we are mixed of Western devotees and Indian devotees, and the way we approach is completely different, Prabhu. The way rather they are, not we approach, how they are, and we have to immediately switch the gear when we are approaching the Western devotees and the Indian devotees. So, and it is very difficult at times sitting, whether through a class or any discussion, to get through both. So it will be so helpful if we have something and if we can access it to please think about it, Prabhu, and start it soon. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, ma'am. Hare Krishna. Yes, I think it is a big challenge. Generally, there have been two broad approaches to Western outreach. One is like you have two parallel streams and keep them parallel. And Western outreach is one, Indian outreach is another. And we have separate centers for each of those. But the problem with this approach is that many problems. One of the big problems is that the second generation or third generation Indians, they don't really, those who have born and brought up in America or in the Western world, they don't really fall in the category of Indians. They're not Westerners completely. They don't fall in the category. So what about all those who fall in the middle? But if we bring both of them together, or we just keep one track for both of them, that doesn't work. That's a big problem. So generally the idea right now is we have to have two different tracks and then gradually bring the tracks together. So, but exactly how that is to be done, there is a challenge. So that means initially we have separate outreach centers for Western devotees, separate outreach center for Indian devotees. And then after a year or two, after they have become a little more stabilized in bhakti, then the two can be brought together. That's the approach which seems to be working, but it's not always. There's no one approach that has been so successful that it can be replicated everywhere, but definitely different dynamics are involved.
Thank you, Prabhu. And one more thing, as you're discussing, I was also thinking, many of the training, if it is made accessible for the grihasthas also, especially in US, I was thinking, don't know about India, but often we don't know what's happening, like as a preacher, but few of the communities are completely run by the grihasthas. So if we can also be trained when we go on Harinam, or either way, we often don't know how to behave with the Westerner, and we treat them the same way we do with the Indians, little more intruding and interfering, which they may not appreciate. So if the grihasthas can also be trained, though of course those who are interested, that will be wonderful for the movement.
That is one big difference between the West and Indian. We can talk about this separately, and we can plan some module also if that much is your interest. See, this is the authority and this is subordinate. This is broadly Indian or Eastern culture. It's not just Indian, Eastern also. And this has been the way ISKCON has been presenting traditionally. And we are even now successful. In Russia, we are successful. Ukraine, we are successful. In China also, at underground level, we are successful. Where the mainstream culture is quite vertical, hierarchical, there our approach has been successful. But the Western approach is largely egalitarian. It's more of the authority and subordinate are more or less equal. The boss is still the boss, but it is not that there's a lot of show of external deference for the boss. So this vertical approach doesn't work much for people who have grown up with the horizontal approach. That's the way they are. So now, while we say that we have to follow the instruction of the spiritual master, and that is true, but then here this is the instruction. But then we also have the example of negotiation, as I said. Dhruva Maharaj speaking, Narad Muni, and Dhruva Maharaj speaking, Narad Muni gives a particular instruction. Dhruva Maharaj says, it's not possible for me. Then Narad Muni gives another instruction. So Narad Muni is not saying, you don't know who I am the Guru of Vyasdev. How dare you think that I can't, that I don't know what is good for you? How dare you challenge my instruction? Narad Muni doesn't do that. Narad Muni negotiates and gives him something which is workable. So a much more horizontal approach is required. And that is not easy to do. So yes, maybe you can contact me separately, and then we can think of something. If there's a lot of interest, and I'm happy to do something in the near future also. Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. I will contact you. Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. I see some other questions. Yes, Sukhakar Prabhu.
Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu, as usual, your classes are really very intellectual, but very deep-rooted, and I really love your classes. Prabhu, just I want to know, you said that you have to see the audience and you have to present in such a way. If they are a simple audience, you will a simple way. If there are little educated people, you do it in a different allegorical or little complicated way, but the same message. But when we give the lecture, there's always the speaker has an intention to impress, to give something, good PowerPoint presentation. One is for understanding, one is for the sort of getting a good name. So that is bad. Intention to present to get the name and fame, that is again going for some desire. Or it is good that you should present the best way, high level. So there is always a confusion. You can be very simple, give very simple class. Sometimes you see the big qualified people are from IIT and also then you have to do it in a different way. The same thing to be presented in a sophisticated way. So how it should not take your pride or false ego level when you are preaching, or it should be, as you said, Prabhupada said, that it should reach the heart and that should change. That should be the prayer and intention.
Yeah.
So
okay. Now you are bringing a different dynamic over here. You consider this is the teacher, this is a student. So I was talking about the effect on the student, and the students can either be, they may need a simple presentation, they may need a complex presentation. But what you are talking about is sometimes the teacher has their own dynamic. The teacher can seek popularity and pride, and that's why they may give a particular kind of presentation. So now sometimes a relatively simple presentation with a lot of humor, with a lot of entertaining stories, that can get a lot of popularity. Now, is that a bad thing? See, there's a difference between popularity and populism. The two are not the same. So the two are not the same. Populism is where, like for example, a political leader just gives freebies so that they can get votes. Now, if you vote for me, I'll give everybody free electricity, free water supply, free school, free this, free that. And how can you do that when there is no economy? They don't have the money for that. You do that now, you get elected, the politician gets elected, but the government becomes bankrupted in 2, 3, 4 years. A huge ballooning national debt or state debt. So populism is basically, it is short-sighted, or you can say short-sighted and self-interested.
Selfish, yeah.
Self-seeking, Whereas now, do we want popularity? Well, it is not that we want popularity for our sake, but we want Krishna's message to reach a wide audience. So popularity itself is not bad. Prabhupada will also say that, he would say that the test of a Vaishnava, he would quote Bhaktivinoda Thakur, the test of a Vaishnava is how many Vaishnavas have you made? So Prabhupada would say that means, and Prabhupada would say that in that sense, that's not a wrong thing. So sometimes some people will, some speakers are naturally humorous, some people are just beautiful storytellers. Well, that's, I'm not using storyteller in a negative sense. I'm just saying that that's their ability. Now, while using that ability, how much Krishna are they giving with that? That is something which they have to be careful. So when that happens, then that's what enables, that's the test. So if the person is sincere, then they will surely bring in adequate amount of Krishna and Krishna conscious message along with the humor and other things. And sometimes they may just not do that to reach a particular audience, which is okay, if that's what the audience needs. Now, are they doing it for popularity? We don't know anyone's heart. So we don't have to necessarily judge people for that. But we have to see, when I am speaking a point, is it that, how do I decide the test success of my class? How much did people laugh during my class? Sometimes the audience may have a laughter test for the good class. There's so many jokes, wonderful class. Well, neither the audience nor the speaker should actually be testing a class based on the laughter test. Laughter is good. Nothing wrong at all in laughter. But how much laughter is there in the class is not the criteria for a good class. Good class is where there is good content and then there is humor also with it. So like that, we have to find that balance. And if we can become, if pride, now pride is always a concern. That is a challenge which we will always have to face. And is it that a particular approach will protect us from pride? Is it a simple presentation will protect us from pride? Not necessarily. My Maya is so subtle. Somebody gives a very simple basic presentation. I'm simply following Srila Prabhupada. and then I don't get that person doesn't get so much fame or popularity or whatever, then will that mean that they will be free from pride? Well, so somebody uses simple presentation and they say there's no pride in me, my pride is going down. But then somebody else gives a more complex or a sophisticated presentation, and then they become popular. So what happens is we do not have pride, but we have envy for them. Our envy for that person increases. So it's a subtle thing that I may sing Prabhupada tune and I may feel satisfied. I say, I am faithfully following Prabhupada. And somebody else starts singing Hare Krishna in what we consider the Bollywood tune. And we think that, this person is compromising, but people love it. And then we start resenting that person. So the point is, are we Krishna conscious? Whether we are being simple or sophisticated, but you see, are we Krishna conscious and are we helping others become Krishna conscious? So for some people, trying to be simple may take them away from Krishna consciousness. For some people, trying to be complex may take them away from Krishna consciousness. So we just focus on how can I be Krishna conscious? So as a speaker and as a teacher and as a student. So if we focus on that, then we will find our way ahead.
So the bottom line is how much proportional jiv they are doing. How many people are being brought into Krishna consciousness, they start chanting. That will be the meter point to know that whether we are effective in giving class.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Thank you. So now there are a couple of questions. How can we different when it is bhakti sentiment or other kinds of things? As it is quite a big question over here. In general, bhakti sentiment is not a bad thing. There is sentiment and there is sentimentality. So sentiment is something which we want, because every relationship will have sentiments in it. But sentimentality is being controlled by emotions. So this is where it's bad. So how do we do that? Basically, whatever it is, whatever sentiment it is, whatever it is not, if it's proper sentiment, then what it will do is it will reinforce our bhakti practice, our standard bhakti practices. That means if I experience some sentiment while say doing kirtan, while doing puja, if I get a dream of Krishna, now can Krishna come in my dream or any devotee's dream? Who is going to stop Krishna? Krishna is omnipotent. But if after waking up from the dream, I think, oh, I'm so special, Krishna came in my dream, so I am Krishna conscious even in my sleep also. I don't need to chant Hare Krishna. This sadhana is for neophyte devotees. Then that is wrong. But if I think that, oh, Krishna is coming in my dream, Krishna blessed me, Krishna is so kind to me, let me reciprocate by becoming more devoted to him. Then that is anukul. So sentiment is positive. So, and last question is now, thank you for your other appreciative comments also. I'm happy to be of service. Which is center of audience while communication? How to identify the intersection? Okay, generally it's difficult to know from the beginning, but as we interact with people, if we just try to hear them and try to understand where they're coming from, then we'll find out more about them. Bhakti is actually about, it is reciprocation. So when we are speaking, it's important to speak, but it's also important to hear. So especially if we are focusing on a particular demographic, we are going to reach a particular kind of people, we are in a particular locality, then we talk with people. Sometimes we just think, oh, people are just talking mundane things, I don't want to talk with them. That may be true, but sometimes even in the mundane, there may be an opportunity to bring in some spirituality. So that's why we need to hear from people. So there's a teacher and there's a student. It is not just teachers giving the message. The teacher is also hearing from the student. Sally Agarwal, the person at whose place Srila Prabhupada stayed Sally and Gopal Agarwal. Her statements about Srila Prabhupada are fascinating. What he says is that Swamiji was interested in everything American. He said how the vacuum cleaner worked, how the tap worked, how the oven worked, how this worked, how that worked. Now Prabhupada didn't go to America to learn how a vacuum cleaner worked. Prabhupada was trying to understand how the American mind worked. And he was observing carefully. He was understanding his audience. He was learning about the way his audience thought and functioned. And then he presented. So I think it's both. We just spend some time wherever it is possible, hearing the audience also, and we learn from them. Now, of course, we can't let them speak 90% and we speak 10%. It is the percentage has to be appropriate. But generally, letting people speak is or hearing people speak is also helpful. Okay. Now, is there any book for Narad Muni for his understanding drive for preaching? I think many devotees have given classes, but I don't think there's a book specifically on this topic. So thank you very much. Granthraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.
Jai. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the wonderful class, and thank you for your time, Prabhuji. Your dad is in the hospital, but he still came and gave the class for us. Very, very grateful. Prabhuji, and we all pray for your dad's fast recovery. So thank you so much, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Let's pay our obeisances. Vancha kalpatrupasya Chaitanya Charan Prabhuji ki jai. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. All glories to the devotees. Thank you so much.